Hello, greetings to you. I am Ali Jalali, a distinguished professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University in Washington. Today I speak on the dynamics of the peace process in Afghanistan, a process aimed at achieving a political settlement in Afghanistan to bring peace to a country that has been embroiled in conflict and war in the past more than 4 decades. Now, my remarks today are going to cover 3 points. First, the roadmap to peace process, or what the peace process is defined by. The second point is what obstacles are facing the implementation as the peace process is moving with facing many hurdles. And the third is prospects for achieving political settlement in Afghanistan on the basis of what is defined in the Doha deal between the United States and the Taliban. Now look at first I will look at the roadmap to peace. The roadmap to peace is in fact defined by the United States and Taliban agreement, peace agreement in Doha on February 29, 2020, and a simultaneous joint declaration between the government of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and the United States. According to these agreements, the peace process is predicated on the Taliban agreement to not allow terrorist groups or terrorist attacks from the Afghanistan territory, Afghanistan soil, to against the U.S. targets and its allies. And also the Taliban agrees to enter the peace talks with the Afghan government in order to finally charter out the future of Afghanistan, a peaceful and stable Afghanistan. And this is an exchange of the United States commitment to withdraw its military forces from Afghanistan in 14 months, with the first phase in 135 days from the date of signing of the agreement, which was 29th of February 2020, and to withdraw about 5,000 or 5,000 troops and reduce its presence in Afghanistan, military presence, to 8,600. And in addition to that, the Taliban actually agreed to work with the Afghan governments during the negotiations to reach a comprehensive and permanent ceasefires. These are two parts of this agreement. The Taliban counter-terrorism commitment, the United States withdrawal of the troops from Afghanistan. These two commitments actually defines the two others, which is the intra-Afghan dialogue, intra-Afghan negotiations to charter out the future of Afghanistan as a Afghan-owned and Afghan-led process, and which leads to permanent ceasefire or permanent comprehensive ceasefire. All these parts are interrelated. Each part is going to be implemented or was intended to be implemented in its own timeline is agreed, but all are interconnected. All should be implemented in order to this package to be acceptable to all. Now, the United States also in the Doha meeting agreed to work with relative parties, that's Taliban and Afghanistan, to do a number of confidence building activities, which includes exchange of prisoners, in which agreement the Afghan government would release 5,000 Taliban prisoners and Taliban will release 1,000 Afghan government and political prisoners before the talks began between Afghan government and the Taliban, which was aimed at that time for 10th of March. In other words, 10 days after the signing of the agreement in Doha. But now, in spite of the withdrawal of US forces from Afghanistan, according to the agreement in the first stage, which reduced the presence of military presence of the United States in Afghanistan to 8,400, 600 personnel. The other key elements of the roadmap or the door opening to this process. However, this process has not been started. 5 months after the signing of the agreement, still the two sides have not started the negotiations, which actually caused many concerns among the parties and also the international community. This has been a very tragic situation because the delay in the starting of the negotiation caused the continuance of violence by Taliban in response of the Afghan government, which actually cost the lives of thousands of Afghans on both sides. Now, the question is that why and how come that negotiation, what was agreed upon, that it will start on 10th of March, it has not started 5 months after it was agreed upon. This actually is important. The reasons are many, and one can look in 2 areas. The first area is the mistrust, self-interest, and doubts on all sides. On the Taliban sides, they insist that before the talk begins, 5,000 Taliban prisoners should be released as it was agreed in Doha. But now to the Afghan government, it initially thought that it was be part of the negotiation later on. However, so far, Afghan government had released 4,300 prisoners, or maybe more, short of 4,600, 5,000 that was agreed upon. The Taliban also released 860 out of 1,000 Afghan government and political prisoners. The Afghan government believes that, or claims that, the 600 on the Taliban list are actually committed the criminal violences, including the drug trafficking or other crimes. In addition to this, many of them are not Afghans. They are coming from other countries. So that the Afghan government believes that they cannot free these 600 people. But they are ready to have a substitute list of other Taliban prisoners to be released. The Taliban insists that these 600 should be released, freed, before the talks begins. On the other hand, the Taliban continued violence in the past 5 months, although in Doha, tacitly they agreed to reduce the violence. They did not reduce the violence. So violence actually gradually increased, and now it stands at the pre-Doha status. The Afghan government calls several times to reduce the violence and also to agree on a ceasefire, at least in the coming Eid al-Adha festival. That situation has delayed the beginning of the talks. On the other hand, the Taliban claims that the United States has violated the treaty because they continue to bomb targets in Taliban areas. However, in the Doha agreement, it was also agreed upon that the bombing will stop on a Taliban target as long as they do not attack the Afghan government targets or installations. But if the Afghan government are in defensive position and Taliban attack them, then the United States Air Force or air assets will fight with the Afghan government. This is another issue that has delayed the beginning of the talks. And the second area that I mentioned is the internal rifts, internal disputes within the both camps. In the Taliban camp, there are reports that the political wing and military wings are having some disputes over the peace process. Therefore, the Doha office, which is represented Doha's political office, is sometimes in clash with this leadership of the Taliban or with the field commanders, military commanders of Taliban inside Afghanistan. Recently, there have been some reports that some measures were taken in order to rift these disputes, including changing the delegation of Taliban for the talks in Doha, and also changing the military structure of Taliban, including putting the Mullah Yaqub, the son of the founder of Taliban, the late Mullah Omar, in charge of military operations. On the other hand, inside the Afghan government, also you see the rifts. There are after the kind of controversial elections, when the winner, the two sides who claimed the winning of the election, Dr. Abdullah and Dr. Ashraf Ghani, they finally agreed to join in a government of power sharing government. However, recently there is differences that the agreement has not been honored by the government, and therefore the disunity inside the Afghan government also actually gives an opportunity to Taliban to delay the talks. And in the United States too, there are many circles that they criticize the way the peace process is going on and giving more advantages to the Taliban, because the Taliban's agreement that they will not allow terrorists to use Afghanistan territory against United States targets or interest in its allies. It is very hard to monitor. Well, the United States commitment is very straightforward. Withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan. This gives little control to the United States in the implementing of the process. So all these issues delays the beginning of the intra-Afghan negotiation, which is a crucial part in the peace process. So now, what happens? With all these problems, with all these hurdles and obstacles, what are the prospects for peace in Afghanistan? The prospect of peace for Afghanistan depends on what all actors are going to do in the implementation phase. Whether the Taliban are going, the Afghan government, the United States and its allies, the regional actors. I think the success of the process depends on contribution and the compromise of all parties involved in the Afghan conflict. On the Taliban side, I think the reduction of violence can increase, can raise the level of confidence in peace in Afghanistan, and also the reduction of casualties. Create an environment that the other side will also give concessions. But if Taliban think that they can outweigh the other side with the withdrawal of these forces, then this violence will continue, and they also cannot achieve much, because their legitimacy now is a political legitimacy given to them by the agreement in Doha. If they continue to the conflict and continue to fighting and think that elusively that they can move them out, they will lose that legitimacy, and they cannot win only if they base their eligibility on violence. On the Afghan side, too, if they believe that they can tough out this situation and they can continue fighting, and finally they will force the Taliban to come to the table in a weaker position, that's also an illusion. Because this, the continuation of violence not only causes suffering to the Afghans, on the other hand, it also influences the position of the great powers and also the regional powers. Maybe the United States and will withdraw its forces if they see that this peace process is not going to work. In that case, this is a recipe for civil war in Afghanistan. So both sides, the Taliban and the Afghan government, should realize that an early beginning of the negotiation is in the best interest of the Afghans and also on the both sides. And then also in the international actors. Although the United States states that the withdrawal of the rest of the withdrawal of the remaining United States troops in Afghanistan is condition-based. Condition improves that the Taliban and the Afghan government actually do their parts, then they will withdraw the troops. But if they do not, then it's condition-based. Maybe that withdrawal will be slowed. We don't know. Maybe. But the other possibility is that the United States precipitously leave Afghanistan militarily, and that is also creates a vacuum that will create more conflict and violence. Therefore, it is in the best interest of both sides to take this opportunity, and as long as the US is there in Afghanistan, if the funding is available, to reach a political settlement. In the meantime, there's one other issue that actually affects the progress in the situation. That's what we call it negative symmetry. Negative symmetry means that both sides should the support, outside support to both sides should gradually and parallelly should be reduced. If the United States are leaving troops from Afghanistan in 14 months, as it was agreed upon in the Doha process, it should benchmark with the gradual closure of the Taliban infrastructure, outside infrastructure, in support from outside. If that outside support continues, if they have their outside infrastructure, there will be little incentive for them to see that while the US is leaving Afghanistan, and they will try to either get in a stronger position on the battlefield or a stronger position on the negotiating table. So it is something that all parties involved, the Taliban, the Afghan government, the regional actors, the great powers, should also coordinate and cooperate. Fortunately, Afghanistan is one of the few areas in the world, great power and many regional power agreed to cooperate because they all share some long-term interest in this country. I hope this will prevail, and we will see until what happens next. Thank you very much.